Well, this is the A Connector podcast. I'm your host, Mark Foreman, and today we have a friend of mine, Mr. Stephen Leo. Stephen, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mark.
So this is your first time on A Connector, and
Yes.
have you been on other podcasts before this one?
No, this is first time in my life for the
Oh,
podcast.
okay. Well, congratulations. You're now initiated into the podcast club.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So let me first preface. So I know Stephen here locally in Taichung, met through a mutual friend, and my friend was telling me that Stephen is got an interesting business background. I think he even mentioned that you're from the C-suite, which a lot of you know that C C-suite being, well, you were what? You were recently a COO. Is that correct, Stephen?
That's right. In automotive components company, and
Okay.
doing the forge wheel rings to some luxury brand of the cars. It was kind of a very interesting job.
Ha-
After 11 years in the consumer electronics.
okay. So had you been involved in anything automotive related prior to this last job? What, like
Uh,
on the electronic side, were you doing anything automobile related?
no, not really.
Okay. All right. So basically, you're working there, doing these wheels, and that's kind of a more recent thing. Let's kind of flip things around, going back a little bit earlier, because I don't think I've ever talked to you about your educate. You went to university in Taiwan.
Actually, I graduated from the uh, Institute of Technology in Kaohsiung.
Okay.
It's called the Kaohsiung Gongzuan. And now this uh, institute is not existing anymore.
Uh-oh.
They changed the name to the Tech universities. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. We had talked before. I think I got to Taiwan when you were what, like a teenager, like right around probably before you started, probably before you started the school. I got to Taiwan in 1987. So
1987.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, at that time I was in the senior high school.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's funny because inevitably, I've had some friends here and we're talking. It's like, oh, Mark, so you've been in Taiwan for a while. I said, yeah, probably not as long as you. Like, what? I said, when did you get here? He said, oh, yeah, well, you're right. I was like 3 years old when you came. Like, okay, there you go. So, but okay. So, it's interesting. I mean, you were still pretty young. I was still obviously young, a little bit older than you. But I'll tell you what was fascinating to me at that time was how much Taiwan was changing. Uh, because when
Yeah.
I got here, Jiang Jingguo, who was the
Yes.
second, I guess the first locally appointed president, because Chiang Kai-shek came from China originally.
Yeah.
Jiang Jingguo, of course, was his son. So when I got here, he was still alive, and actually, I was here a few months, and he passed away. And
Okay.
then Li Denghui came in
Yeah.
as president. So that'll give you that reference. And so much was changing Taiwan economically. I mean, Taiwan was just exploding
Yes.
economically. Like I hear that the stock market was going crazy. I mean, the stock market was
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
exploding. And the other thing politically, we talked the other day, the DPP, the Democratic Progressive Party, which is actually now Taiwan's ruling party. For those that don't know, um, they were still not actually 100% legal yet. I guess the idea was they were going to get legal status, but that had not happened yet. So it's kind of like they were getting some freedom, but they were still kind of being scrutinized and
Uh-huh.
kind of managed somewhat. But and just so much has changed from that time until now. So I'm really excited as a foreigner that I got here at such a crucial time in Taiwan's modern history, where economically so many things were changing, and probably some of that will tie in with some of your other work experience. How probably around that time it was starting to come, really come up a bit. But just to give you some context, okay. So after school now, what probably some of our foreign friends don't know that Taiwan basically has a mandatory military service requirement, correct?
You're right. For all the young guy who is over 18, if they are not keeping the study, then they have to go to the military. In my time, it was 2 years, but for the Marine Corps and for some special troops, then it's 3 years. I was serving in the Navy for 2 years, but nowadays it's only few months. Yeah.
Right. Right. I think now, like with my son, I think actually my son was like the first group it started, it dropped down like 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but for like my father-in-law, I think he had to do like 3 years. So I think that was like the longest that it was. That was like back in the old days.
So
And
he was in the special troops or the
no,
Air
no,
Force. Or,
no, he was just standard army. It was just that, obviously he was older at that time. I guess the standard length was 3 years, and it got
okay. Okay.
gradually shorter. You know,
I see.
so you were like the middle one, and then like probably like 10 years ago, it dropped down to like 1 year, and then
Yes.
finally, they got it down to this level.
Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned to me your dad is from mainland China.
Yeah.
So
He was from mainland China, and then my mother is from Taiwan, local.
okay, so
Yeah.
so was your dad a military man?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so he came.
He came from China with the Chiang Kai-shek's troops, and sorry that he had to say goodbye to his family in China, and came to Taiwan alone, and met my mother, and then they stayed together.
Do you have any brothers and sisters in China?
Yes, I heard.
Okay, yeah. Just for those listening, because of the political history in Taiwan, that when the Republic of China, uh, troops, and the government left mainland China because the People's Republic of China current government, the Chinese Communist Party took control there, so many people came to Taiwan, and like in the case of Stephen's father. Um, Stephen's father was a military, so he came with the troops coming over to Taiwan. So that's kind of what we're talking about, just for some context. Okay, so all right, now you've gone to school. Now you're about ready to graduate. So what are you thinking? What are you doing to prepare? Because we all need to make some money. So what did you come up with? And if you could help me on this one, when you were graduating from college, you're about to get out of your technical university. What was your work opportunity like then? How did you get started in business
Okay.
back when you were just getting out of school?
When I graduated from the college, I went to the military service for 2 years, and after that, I applied a job as the service engineer to install, maintain, and repair the CNC machines for the tools and the mold makings, the wire cut machines, the EDM machines, and the hydraulic presses, or kind of things like that. So
Excuse me, I'm laughing because I know these machines very well. So I mean, I'm hearing this.
I knew it.
It's a
I knew it.
personal. It's not. I'm not laughing at you. It's just like it's a warm reminder of my Taiwan business life.
Your old days, right?
Exactly, and some recent days too. But yeah, that's great. Okay,
And
so can we inform? Because some people are going to be listening. So can you kind of what is a CNC machine basically?
yeah, actually, the CNC machines are the equipment that is controlled by the computer, and you program it, and the machine will do the job according to your programs to maybe cut the piece of the metals to become the shape that you want,
Right.
and either by cutters or by the electrical discharge,
Which is the
and
EDM machine,
EDM
electrical
machines,
discharge machine, right?
yes,
And
or
so
by
these are very precise. This is precision machinery.
yes, and those machines are mainly in the purpose to produce the mold and dies for the mass-produced the components as a basis. With this mold and die, you can produce thousands of the parts a day with the same shape, same accuracy, and same precision.
Okay. Now, was most of the equipment you were working on at that time Japanese or imported, or was already Taiwanese equipment starting to become fairly popular?
Those are mainly imported from Switzerland, Germany, and America. Those are the very, very high precision and very expensive machines.
Right, right. Okay. This is interesting because in my experience, when I was working at a factory here in central Taiwan that was involved in doing tooling primarily for tennis rackets, doing the compression tooling, they had a Swiss CNC machine. Actually, they even had a Swiss injection mold press. And I was talking with some other friends, and another local friend that was in business. He told me, he said, Mark, it's funny. A lot of the foreign companies, they are very happy to buy the Taiwanese equipment because they have skill and they feel the Taiwanese equipment is a reasonable price and okay to use. But a lot of the Taiwanese local people, they don't trust the Taiwanese equipment, so they'll pay up for the imported equipment. And I'm like, that's kind of, it was kind of counterintuitive, but I think that's changed. I think it's gotten to the point where a lot more people feel confident in using Taiwanese made equipment because the Taiwan level of quality and standards have continued to come up. So
Yeah.
that's why I asked. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So you're working on the equipment side. So please continue.
Yeah. And I was the service and application engineers. And one day, the company asked me if I want to have a try to sell a very small tool grinders, because there was the leftover from the customer's order. So I said, okay, why not have a try? So I went to visit a customer and told him that I have a tool grinder with a very attractive price, and the customer took it immediately. So people in the company was shocked that this young guy can sell the machine relatively quick. I said, yeah, this is nothing special. And they say, do you want to be a salesman? And I say, yeah, why not? Since the sales for me is not difficult, as I had the first sales experiences. So I switched to sales side. Yeah.
That's great.
And then by chance, I joined a Swiss company in Taiwan doing the same thing of as the machinery representatives from the Switzerland. And so that I switched to that Swiss company and keep doing my sales job. But at that time, I was promoted to the product manager that to be responsible for the entire product line, from sales and the after sales service, and also the inventory of those spare parts. So that's how I grew up from the machinery business side.
So at that time you were living up in Taipei, or
I live in Taipei, but I have to travel around the whole island. And during that period of time, 3 years plus 7 years, I visited more than 500 factories in Taiwan. And for those visitings, I accumulated a lot of the experiences. And also, I like to be in factories. I like to see the things, how the things are produced, and also how the people manage the factories, everything. I like it so much.
You're a curious guy.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so it's interesting because as I hear you speaking and I see, I'm kind of like, laughing a little bit outside and inside because like, wow, it sounds a lot like me in my experiences. So this is kind of fun. But yeah, it is. It's, for those who have never been inside a factory, let me tell you, there's a lot you can learn there. There's a lot to see there. It's, I guess, especially for guys, because, with guys, we like to, do things and we're in, as kids, we like to play with cars, right? And, a lot of times we're breaking things down and trying to, and hopefully
Yeah.
we can put them back together. I had a cousin that just liked to take things apart and never put them back together. But, so yeah, and if you get in a factory, you see, okay, so this is like that whole idea, but for real, it's a business now, and there's a time pressure, and there's a procedure and a system. So interesting. Okay, so now it makes sense to me why you would have so many mold tool contacts, because this was a key part of the business that you just described. Okay, so you're working for the Swiss company and making a lot of contacts in the local manufacturing industry. What next?
So I have to say, add one thing that, and therefore, my first overseas trip was to Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah, alone, and it was for me everything so curious, and so I think there was a really a great life experiences for me
Were you
to
nervous at
travel.
all? Do you remember?
Sorry.
Were you nervous at all?
I was in the southern parts of Switzerland. It's called Ticino.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Were you nervous? Were you anxious about the trip before
No,
going?
no.
Just excited, right?
If you don't know anything, then you have nothing to fear, right?
Yep.
I think that is the strength of the young people.
Sure.
In Chinese, we have one saying that the 出生之犊不怕虎. The young calf will not fear of tiger,
right?
Because they don't know what is tiger,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Naivete, the innocence of youth, right? And also, you're starting at zero. You can only go up. You don't have to really worry.
That's right. You're right. So
it's only a win. You can't lose.
That's right.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, you're right. That's the one. Yes.
Okay.
So and also in the later stage of my stay in the Swiss company,
mm-hmm.
I had the chance to catch up the trend that at that time the Taiwan was so famed to develop the lightweight metals for laptops and for mobile phones. It has to be lightweight and high strength. And therefore, the magnesium is the top choice to make that components. And therefore, luckily I was the representative of the Bühler die casting machines from Switzerland. And I then had the chance to introduce this technology to the Foxconn group. And so in 1998, I had the business meeting with the Foxconn's founder, the Terry Guo, and we made the deal with him.
So your first meeting with Foxconn, you were meeting with the big guy. You were meeting with the top dog, huh?
That's right.
I bet that was exciting. Was he at that time? Was Terry Guo already pretty famous? I think so.
Yes, pretty famous.
Maybe not internationally, but certainly in Taiwan, he was very well known.
Very famous. And at that time, I think the entire Foxconn's revenue was 70 billion NT dollars.
Okay.
Yeah. But now, last year is 550 billion NT dollars.
Right.
Amazing.
Okay. So all right. So you pitched the Swiss um, uh, what was it? What we say? Stamping press, right?
Die casting
Oh,
machine.
die casting machine. I'm sorry,
Die
die casting.
casting.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
right. And for those that don't know, I'll take this one. So for those that don't know, die casting is a process. Like in plastic, the most common process would probably be plastic injection. The plastic material is basically liquefied under heat and pressure and then forced into the die. With metal, it's a little bit different. The metal is melted, and under pressure, it's put into the die, and it's usually uses alloys like Stephen mentioned, magnesium, maybe aluminum, maybe zinc. So that's a process that would be used there. Okay, so
Yeah,
at that time, Foxconn is making a lot of what kind of product? They were doing connectors. That was their
they're
main.
doing the connectors and the casing for desktops, and also a lot of the electronics components, or the bare bone for the laptops, yeah,
Okay,
the
so
power unit and so on.
a question that I had. Okay, because now the parent company of Foxconn, which in Chinese is what, Fusakang, right? And
The
then there would
parent
be
company of
Honghai.
Foxconn is Honghai.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. So actually, I think most of the world knows Foxconn, but I think a lot of the world doesn't know the Honghai name. So what is the how do we get from Honghai only into also Foxconn? Do you know the?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, in Taiwan they call the Honghai, but when they invested in China, they had the name of the Foxconn, and
Okay.
gradually Honghai used the Foxconn as the trademark for all of their products over the world.
Okay.
And the Foxconn, the Con CONN stands for the connectors as their starting business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fox, I don't know, but maybe probably the Terrigo wants
A fox.
the Honghai to be as like a fox, the
Okay.
smart and nimble and agile.
And
I think
tricky.
so. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Interesting. So, okay. That explains it because in the beginning, when I first heard it, I learned the China, Honghai, and then I'm hearing Foxconn. I was saying there were two different companies, and then I find out, okay, they are in fact the same company.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. And so obviously you're doing some sales there. You begin a relationship with Foxconn and with and Terry Go. And so please continue.
Yeah. Then because my family is in Taichung, even at that time, so I was apart from my family, living in Taipei alone, and I thought it wasn't good, so I moved back to Taichung and joined a company who is doing the woodworking tools, like the nailers that when you build the house in the
Mm-hmm.
States, it's all by wood, and you
Right.
need a nail gun to fix those. So I joined that company, and for 2 years as the sales manager, and attending the woodworking shows and the business meetings with customers and try to sell, or even to develop the new market, new dealership, and so on. So it was another good experiences for me
Mm-hmm.
to grow, to learn from the housing industry and the woodworking industries and so on. Then I was trying to know more about the consumer electronics. It was my long time interest. So by chance, I knew one of the company who is very famous. Is called the Catcher. They at that time they were doing also the magnesium casing for mobile phones and for laptops. So they offered me the chance to join them. So I joined them and start my consumer electronics career. So by joining them, I moved to China in Suzhou. Their factory was in Suzhou, and I started there with my customer Nokia to develop the mobile phones. And therefore, within that the 3 years, I visited more than half of the Nokia's designing center globally. So meaning that they have about 12 design centers globally, and I visited more than 6.
So approximately, what was this like? Just like early 2000, somewhere around there.
That is oh yes, it's 2005. I
Okay.
joined the Quechua
So at this
company.
point, Nokia is still kind of the king. I mean, Nokia really had the market
Certainly,
still at that
yes,
point. Okay, this
yeah.
before
At
the
that
iPhone,
time,
before smartphones.
they had the market share of 36%.
Wow.
They dominated the market, and they
Yeah.
produce 1 million phones a day.
Right. I only had Nokia phones at that time, so I remember it well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now you visit their design center. So they had design center obviously in Finland, and where else do they have locations?
They have the design centers in Finland, in the Helsinki and the Espoo. Actually, the Espoo is their headquarters, and in Denmark, the Copenhagen, and in the Germany, the Bochum and the Ulm, and in England, the Southwood, and in America, the San Diego, in Dallas, and in Beijing, and in Korea, in Tokyo,
Wow.
and yeah, it's about yeah, yes.
Wow, that's quite a lot. Actually, I have my ancestors. Some of them came from Europe, very very close to Finland, a little bit south of there, from Latvia. Uh,
Ah,
yeah. So, but I've never been over that way. But okay, so you're working uh, for the supplier to Nokia, and so how are things going?
so to work with Nokia, I believe there was another quite pleasant experiences because the Nokia way was so gentle and nice. They they really treat suppliers well, and so when Nokia fell apart, I feel a little bit sorry because it was such a great company actually. But somehow I think that the leaders uh, was a very very important key
Hmm.
to Nokia. Either they bring Nokia to the very glorious position, or made the Nokia fail apart. It's all from the leadership.
Right. Right.
So I also learned that to make the decision for the company's future must be very carefully, and has to keep eyes open to all the happening around the world. You cannot just close the door and think it by yourself.
Right. Right. Yeah, I remember now how the whole mobile phone thing was such an interesting experience because it just made it very clear to me the volatility of markets, because I think initially, like
Yeah.
Motorola was king. I mean, they own the market. And like almost overnight, like where did Nokia come from? And now it seems like Nokia owns the market. And you think,
Uh-huh.
okay, I guess that'll be just the way it is. And then all of a sudden, now you start to get this new thing called uh, well, I mean, even for a while, HTC was actually doing pretty good at one time, at
That's
least for
right.
the
Yes.
OEM phones, right?
Yeah.
They pretty much owned that like American OEM phone business for a period. I mean, Motorola was still going to, Nokia's going okay, and all of a sudden, once did you have any experience with BlackBerry at all? Were you involved? Did you do any Sales.
No, but I knew this the BlackBerry. Actually, I think the philosophy of the phone's design was really good for the businessman. That they
Yeah.
have the keyboard that you can really type very fast. So it was kind of the good tools for the business people. Even I believe the Barack Obama, the previous president of American, he also used the BlackBerry a lot, right?
Tons of people did. I mean, see, that was just it. I was living here all during that time, so I would hear about it. I know people using it. I never, here in Taiwan, it never really caught on. But in America, well, actually, America was so popular, they had a nickname. They called it Crackberry because crack is a drug, the drug crack. So because
Yeah.
people use Blackberries, like they never put it down,
Ah.
and think about that. Look at people with smartphones now. It's the same thing. I mean, it's like when people have smartphones, you know how many people just they're always looking at it, they're always playing with it, because it just takes your focus. Okay, one thing that we didn't talk about, but also in that period of time, did you ever have any experience with like the Palm? Do you remember the Palm?
I know Palm Pilot.
Palm Pilot,
Yes.
and because that was really, in a sense, that was really like the first forerunner of the smartphone.
Yes.
I had like a Palm, I had like a Palm 5, and
Mark,
yeah.
when we talk about these old histories, people will easily know that we are pretty old in the old fashion. You want to do that, really?
Well, I don't have any gray hair over here, so I don't know.
Nobody. I think nowadays, not many people who is listening to the podcast know about the Palm Pilot.
Well, it's real simple. The ones that do know about it, they'll get some warm, fuzzy feeling. The ones that don't know about it, if they're interested, they can learn something. Otherwise, like, guantada, But anyhow, yeah, it's amazing how in a lifetime, how many major technologies, have come and gone. Like if you
Yeah.
want to talk about that, okay, as a kid, for example, I love music, so obviously everything started out with the phonograph record. So what do you call it? Hey Jiao Pian, right? And
Yes.
so, and the thing is, that's where it started. I had over 1,000 albums that I collected, and I know in
Okay.
Taiwan they had a lot, that were Daobanda,
Yes.
so very cheap
Yes.
but good. But in America, most of them were authorized, and so maybe not as cheap. But the point is, and then tapes start to come out, and then the CD comes along, and
CD,
then
yeah.
let's get digital now, MP3,
Yes.
and now it's streaming. So if you talk to and for that matter, young people now, they know a smartphone, but you talk to them about even like a rotary phone, with a dial,
Yes.
like what?
Yes.
Or even a fax machine to some people is like,
What's that?
yeah, what's that? Or how about printers, and it's amazing. I think, and what happens is the speed of new technology, emerging technology, overtaking and existing technology just gets faster and faster. However, the flip side is the life of the new technology gets shorter and shorter,
Shorter. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So very interesting technology, how like that engine seems to, the RPMs keep going up, but the shelf life seems to be, shorter. Something new comes along. So we were talking Motorola, then Nokia, and then ultimately we get up to smartphones, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now actually Nokia had kind of something that was approaching a smartphone. They had, I forget the model name, but it folded, the screen flipped up,
Yes.
had a keyboard there, and I think you could do like also multiple SIM cards. I think that model. Do you know which model I'm talking about? That was like for the real business.
Aha, the Nokia 9000 series, I believe.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A friend of mine had one. I never had one, but I know the product, and that seemed to be kind of like a forerunner of the smartphone. But
Uh-huh.
so any Nokia still in. I guess their background where they're really strong is they were very strong in like in radar and um, Actually, the phone business was just kind of like something new that came along. They were already
Yeah.
starting there. I guess they were doing like a lot of defense contractor work, especially too with Finland being located so close to the former Soviet Union.
And
So they had,
nowadays they are still very strong in the base station for 4G, 5G
okay,
communications.
okay,
Yes.
okay. All right. So, all right, let me, so we don't get too sidetracked here. So you were selling for this company that was doing cases, for Nokia. And then where'd you go next? So what happened after that?
So I was responsible for the Nokia and later on the Sony Ericsson.
Okay.
Another the name which is not existing anymore nowadays.
Right, and those two merged. I mean, that was a joint effort between two separate companies, a Japanese company and a Swedish company,
Swedish,
right? Okay.
Swedish. Yeah, yeah. And then in 2008, I joined the Foxconn finally. And in Foxconn, then I starting with the division is called magnesium business. That back to the die casting that I had. Then work with the customer, the Amazon doing their Kindles and the casing for Kindles and also Nokia phones, and then to the Apple business, the iPod second generation with the stainless steel housing, and then iPad and so on.
Okay, so you got the Foxconn pre-iPhone, just almost up to iPhone, but a little bit before, right? Because you're talking about um, iPod. So the
I
iPhone.
joined Foxconn in 2008, and actually, I believe that Apple launched the first generation iPhone in 2007 in
Okay.
the June 29th.
Yeah, so it's still pretty
Yeah.
new. It still had not caught the big wave yet. It was starting to get attention, and obviously,
Yes,
you know,
yes, yeah.
Steve Jobs, of course, was still alive and very focused on this project. So, yeah, obviously, Apple had already had a big hit with the iPod, and so during this time, I imagine Foxconn was doing most of the production on these devices, like the iPod. That was probably most of them made
Yeah.
by Foxconn.
At that time, Foxconn was the sole suppliers for iPhone. And iPad, I believe they share the volume with the others, but certainly for iPhone, Foxconn was the sole suppliers, and Foxconn worked with Apple very closely together, and so for this, I nowadays I still say to people that since Apple, they have a very good quality control from the component stage to the final assembly. For each assembly station, the phone has to pass the certain test until it's totally assembled and they have a full function test, then pack it and ship it. So I say to people, when you buy iPhone, you don't need to worry about the quality, just buy it.
Right. Just out of curiosity, okay, so did Apple did Apple have, or does Apple still have? I mean, do they have their own people on hand that are basically regularly inspecting in the Foxconn plants, or is it just kind of from time to time? Basically my point? Do they have like full time staff that are basically there every day doing testing or communicating Apple company needs with the Foxconn staff, or how does that work?
Basically, during the development
Okay.
and the early stage of the ramp up. Ramp up is the starting of the mass production.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Apple and Foxconn works very, very closely to make sure that the product is developed according to the design,
Mhm.
and in the function wise, in the quality wise, and all in all specs. And Foxconn, they also put a lot of the efforts and resources to work on that, because that is certainly the most one of the most important business and customers for Foxconn. And Apple, I think the way how they see their own products, and the way how they really translate from the product's design to the real products, their attitude is so respected.
Mhm.
So that's the reason why the people, when they buy iPhones, they are so satisfied with the functions, quality, and so on, because they set a very good procedure to produce, and to making sure the quality is there according to their original design.
Right. Well, I could tell you as a a long-term Apple or Mac user, and lately I haven't been using a Mac for, no particular reason, but way back when, I mean, I couldn't accept a PC. I could, when I started out, I decided, hey, I wanted a Mac, I needed a Mac. And, it was obvious to me that Macs were clearly superior. But I think the one key point is that Apple has been strong on it, and this is a great concept. The fact that with the Mac or the iPhone, Apple controls the whole design of that, the whole spec is theirs, and therefore that's the only way you could guarantee quality, because everything in there meets your spec, and if it doesn't, it's not going to stay in there. Okay, whereas you go to another platform like Android, which is basically like whatever. Or if you go to the Windows, what we call the Wintel machines, where obviously the software is Windows, the processor is Intel, and then everything else is just whoever, a zillion different Taiwanese companies, and maybe Chinese companies or whatever. And so not you know the different components don't always play nicely together. But with
Yeah,
Apple's model, it's like we control it, and everything is going to work well, and that's it.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's impressive. The other thing, as you were talking, it just kind of came to mind. In some ways, it's like, obviously, I don't think Apple would say this per se, but in a lot of ways, to an extent, Foxconn didn't make Apple. It certainly helped Apple a lot, especially their second wave. I mean, the first wave was with Jobs, the first time, and then obviously he was forced out of Apple, and then coming back, because this is not too long after he came back, and so this is the new way with the iPod, and then getting into the iPhone, and then iPad. But obviously Foxconn was a key partner to support what Jobs and the team were doing on that side, having Foxconn and having their system obviously together like they did, because that's not easy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
no, I could tell you someone that's worked with much more small and medium enterprises to support a big corporate effort like that. That's not, that's not an easy thing. And especially
Hmm.
with the numbers that Apple pumped out, and continues to pump out. So that's
Yeah.
very impressive. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So wow, you were there during some very okay. So you're starting out there. So you're working on the magnesium side. So where did you go with it? Because you stayed with Foxconn for a while, right? How many years in total did you work for Foxconn?
From 2008 to 2019, so
Oh, okay.
altogether 11 years.
Yeah. Well, that's a long time, especially if you look at current corporate life. I mean, a lot of guys is like, well, I was there for a year and a half, did my thing. Now I'm somewhere else. So 11 years is that's a significant period of time, and
Yeah.
especially the 11 years that you were there are very, very significant in terms of the cooperation between Foxconn and Apple, and the development of the technologies involved. Okay,
Yes.
so your next job in Foxconn for magnesium was to what?
Then uh, I, due to the organizational change, I moved to the Apple team, uh, working on the iPod uh, division, doing the casing for iPod. and then moved to the division making the iPad casing until I left Foxconn. So
now all of these casings were die cast, or were some of them stamped or machined?
For those the casings from Apple is so-called the unibody that they use a piece of the aluminum and they use the CNC machine to cut the materials to make the final shape. And then we have to polish the surface to make it become very nice and sandblast it with the textures and the fillings, then anodize the surface with the different colors and make it like the ceramic, like the surface with the scratch resistance,
Wow.
then sent to the assembly line for the final assembly.
Right. Everything you said is not that hard. I mean, there's effort involved for sure, but when you said like that kind of finish, scratch, now you're talking about some, there's some technique involved in that. That's not that was not an easy thing. I'm sure you guys went through a lot of you probably got some gray hairs on your head just dealing with that whole process, getting that going, because there's a lot of challenges in that. Yeah.
And you know that I actually like the Apple products a lot because they always use the metal for the casing of their products, and it gives the entire products the feeling of the strength and
quality,
the feeling of the quality,
yeah,
and the feeling of the value.
Yes, there you go, value. Yeah. That's the right one.
So when you have the Apple products on hand, you feel different. You feel that's what you pay for. So I think Apple really has a great product design. Especially, I think that's the from the thought and ideas from Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive, who is a very great design legend. So and until nowadays, the entire Apple team is following the same philosophy. I think that is why Apple keeps a very high standard of the product's image and the quality. And I like to have the products with the metal casing. I just like it. So if you want me to have a product with the plastics, and I don't feel it's the value. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, plastic, even if you make it really nice and solid and well designed, it just the value, it just reads cheaper. But there's a reason why plastic is so common, because metal is a lot more headache. I mean, for those of you that haven't been in manufacturing and don't know much about the process, it's a lot easier to make a piece of plastic nice and quick. Okay, have it quick, have it precise, and looking good. With metal, and with a lot of plastic, right out of the mold tool, it looks pretty good and is ready to be used in most cases. Metal needs a lot of secondary steps in processing. There's a lot more labor that goes into it to get it to be the way that it is now in your hand or in front of you. So I could tell you that from experience.
And you know what? By using the metal, Apple also can do a better recycling.
Good point. Sure.
Yeah,
metal is very easy to recycle
for the environment as well. So I think since Apple, they produce and sell quite a huge number of the products to the world, they are taking their responsibilities to the environment as well. And I think this is something that makes the company even more respect to the people.
Good point, because there's a couple. Well, there's a couple of really big, well-known shoe companies, and I'm not going to mention any names because no need to. But there's a couple of nice athletic shoe companies, and like the nice, and they're big in pushing. Oh, we're using all this recycled material now in our shoes, blah blah blah, which is great. But if you
Uh-huh.
stop now, who's responsible for a lot of the waste materials that they're using? Them. So in other words, it's like we know we're the ones polluting. We're the ones that are making a lot of the pollution in the first place, and so now we're recycling some of the materials of all the shoes that we sold that caused all this, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
trash and pollution problem. I mean, but whatever. It's like it's certainly better than nothing. But the ironic thing is, did you ever notice that most of the time the recycled material products are more expensive than the non-recycled materials? So
Yeah,
because actually there's extra processing involved, to get it to where you can reuse it again. It does take additional processing, but like I said, I'm not mentioning any names because I don't want to make any enemies. And maybe someday we can, if we do a podcast together, we could get some of them to sponsor us, and then of course we'll say some nice things about their product. But
yeah. And
anyhow,
also one thing to add on, I'm not talking the good things for Apple, but I just think that that is something that the other companies might follow. That Apple also ask their suppliers to use more green energies, and they have set their target and to ask their suppliers to get involved and using more green energies.
mhm.
And also Apple, they are very concerned about the labels working environment. They do care the labels. So I think with such a strong the business position like Apple, they are also taking their social responsibilities. And I think that is the good model that the other big companies should also maybe learn the way of how the Apple is doing.
Yeah, social responsibility, sure.
Yes.
Because it's not easy to make money, but I mean, making money is one thing, and of course, it's important. However, you need to be a good global citizen.
Yeah.
So,
And same thing to Foxconn. Foxconn actually is I would say one of the companies really taking care of their labels. And if you have the chance to visit the Foxconn campus, you will see Foxconn is not like the other says the 血汗工厂, the sweat and the blood company. No, Foxconn is not.
yeah. So yeah, actually, as a kid growing up in New York City, and particularly in Chinatown, we used to, there's a lot of sweatshops. These would be very crowded, where people are close together and sewing things. But okay, so were you in Taiwan? So this is during the period now you're working on the iPod and starting to work on iPad. So is this in Taiwan, or are you already in China now at that time?
At that time, from 2005 until 2019, I all stayed in China,
Okay.
in different provinces like the Guangdong, Shenzhen, and in Jiangsu, the Suzhou, and in Shanxi, Taiyuan, and also in Sichuan, Chengdu. Those are places.
Okay. So Sanxi, that's not the Sanxi. Is that where was it Chang'an, or is that
No, Chang'an is
Sanxi?
no. The Taiyuan is the capital of the Shanxi, and Chang'an is in Xi'an.
Oh, Xi'an.
Oh my God.
Okay, but Sanxi, is Sanxi also well known for noodles?
Yes.
Okay, so that, all right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you must have been eating some pretty good noodles while you were living there.
Oh, I like it so much.
So you're a noodle lover, huh?
And also the white wine called the Fenjiu.
Fenjiu. That's the first
Yeah,
time.
Fenjiu.
So what's special about Fenjiu?
It's like Oh my God. If you ask me to explain it in English, I will
Do
need
you
to
do you
think
have
about.
any? Do you have any over there? Do you have some?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. But the taste is different, and it's
So it's different
also
than Gaoliang. It's different than just
it's like a Wuliang or
okay, like Wuliang
you
Yi.
know, this liquor from China is all clear and they call it baijiu.
Yeah, Beiju.
Yeah, it's the alcohol is in the 50
Yeah, it's
something
up there.
percentage. Yeah,
It's up there. Yeah, yeah. It'll keep you warm in the wintertime for sure.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's like white lightning. I mean, in America, where like some of the southern states where people make, you know, alcohol privately, it's it's illegal. They call it bootlegging. You know,
Ah, yes.
and so they call that kind of thing white lightning because it's clear. But if you drink some, it's like lightning hits you, just like whoa. So okay. All
Yeah.
right. So you're basically during most of the time with Foxconn, you're kind of basically based in China. You'll come back to Taiwan what every month, every 2 months.
Uh, Usually every 2 months or 3 months, I came back to Taiwan. But company gave us the uh, allowance to come back to Taiwan every 35 days. But I just didn't come each time. So about every 2 to 3 months, I come back to Taiwan
Okay, but
once.
most of that time, your family was actually living with you in China, correct?
My family was with me for certain years. Then the child they have to move to the junior high school, and I thought that it's better for them to study here in Taiwan. So they came back Taiwan a few years earlier, and I was there alone.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of hard. Okay, so moving around different parts of China. So let's kind of because we're kind of moving on here in time. So let's kind of get towards your towards the end of your time with Foxconn. You're based in. Were you just moving around between different factories, or were you based out of one factory in particular? So where did you finish up? Where were you located?
I started from the Foxconn in Shenzhen factories, and then moved to Taiyuan after uh, a few months in Shenzhen. I moved to Taiwan for about 6 months, and then came back to Shenzhen. Then moved to Chengdu from 2010 and stayed there until I left Foxconn.
Okay, so you must like spicy food as well if you lived in Sichuan that long.
Spice, yes, spicy food, and you know the pandas in Taiwan.
My
It,
wife loves pandas.
oh, really?
Oh yeah, my wife totally loves pandas.
You know, in Taiwan, the bunch of people watching a pair of panda in the animal zoos, but in Sichuan, bunch of the pandas look at the few peoples in their panda garden.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, I like Sichuan food. I like spicy food. So
Have you
okay.
been to Sichuan before?
Not yet. I have to go just for my wife. Once things settle down, I want to take her there. I want to go to take her to Sichuan, but I think I even prefer to go to was Qingling. That's what Qingling is.
Oh, Qinli, yes.
That's
The
is that
mountain
Hunan? Is that like an
to divide the north and the south of China. Yeah.
right? Because actually, the pandas in Qingling, I guess the face is a little bit longer, a little bit deeper. There's a little bit difference between the Sichuan panda and the Qingling panda. I mean, they're both black and white and basically the same kind of personality, but I guess the Qingling panda, the face is a little bit longer.
Ah, Qinli. No, sorry, I don't know this.
Okay. Yeah. Well, next time you talk to Anne, you could ask her because she's the expert. Trust me. I mean, she's like, head of the Taichung Panda fan club, I'm sure. But
Okay.
yeah. So, okay. So now, were you in Sichuan during? No, you were there after the big earthquake.
You're right. After the big earthquake.
Okay. Okay. So what motivated you to look at leaving Foxconn? I guess I'm guessing it was because you wanted to be based in Taiwan more. Was that part of it, or you want to fill us in on that change?
I because I still believe that to live with family together is the best choice.
Sure.
So yeah, that is the biggest motivation for me to move back to Taiwan.
Sure, I could totally appreciate that. You had mentioned once before. Now you travel with Terry Go on several business trips with the customers. Like you told me you visited Apple. Or
Yeah, I was once while he in his office as one of the assistant. So I had the chance to travel with Cherigo, the founder of the Foxconn, for some of the business trips, and it was nice, and I learned quite many things from him,
oh, sure,
and to see how he make the decisions and also how he sees the businesses and yeah, he has a really great scope,
I'll
and
bet.
I was so lucky to be able to learn from him and beside stay on his side. That's really the one of the great career that I have.
Yeah, that's a great experience for sure. Yeah. Okay. So you had mentioned to me, before you close out here, I interrupted you a little bit earlier because I want to get the background, and now kind of jumping back. Uh, you have a lot of interest in electric vehicles. I know that we've talked about that. I know we have you have some different ideas and thoughts on that. Um, so I remember you told me you visited in your last position with uh, the alloy wheel company. You visited several well-known branded companies like in Germany and Italy or England or
uh Unfortunately, that when I joined this car wheel companies, that the not long after the COVID-19 hit the global, and therefore all the travels are not convenient, and therefore I had no chance to visit those companies.
I see.
But I still see see and then learned the trend of the automotive industries, and therefore I I also was so feel that the trend of the EV is coming. So I devoted myself to this the EV industry. I'm sure that's the trend of our mobility, and we should focus more on that.
I agree with you. There's a lot more to talk about on that. So I think why don't we leave that for a future maybe podcast program? And I think you and I might have some ideas about some podcast programs, etc. Well, Stephen, I just want to say thank you. Obviously, Chinese New Year is coming up very soon, so I can wish you here on A Connector, Gongxi Fatai, Hongbao Nalai.
Ah,
And
you are 100% Taiwanese.
well, 有样学样, right?
That's great.
So,
You're awesome.
but and also this is going to be the year of the now. What is the animal year that you're born in?
I was born in the monkey year.
Ah, the year of the monkey. Okay, I'm the year of the pig. So the year of the boar. So, but this
Uh-huh.
year the year of the ox. So yeah, Stephen, I want to thank you. It was a really good time, and some things I found some more details. Some things are totally new. So it's good to learn and get to know you a little bit more. And look forward to talking to you some more real soon. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
you're
Yeah.
welcome.